Welcome to the May 3rd episode of Reactive Consciousness, our in-depth podcast about what happened this week in our lives. I am your host, OldManStompy, and this is...
Lotus Prince.
And Dracologist.
Yep, spoiler alert, for those of you who watched the Tuesday episode, Dracologist is still here, and Vice is still gone.
Yes.
But not forgotten.
I've already...
Also, I would like to know myself what the kind of fucking accent I was just using a second ago.
Nice. We speak in tongues here. On Reactive Consciousness.
Various tongues. You're on Corrective Consciousness.
Mostly English.
That's how we do things on Corrective Consciousness.
This is Reactive Consciousness.
Oh yeah.
Get it right.
Oh no, we didn't do this on Corrective at all. I'm gonna start the whole podcast over.
Yep.
It's spoiled.
So anyway, our first segment. Now that all that nonsense is done.
Oh no.
So I thought I would take over the podcast a second time. I figured Vice didn't, give me enough time to talk about wrestling last week, so I took over the podcast so we can talk about it even more.
Yes.
We continue the Islamotopia.
Yeah, basically, the wrestling consciousness aspect of a consciousness mania of this episode of our series. So last week I mentioned that the WWE was putting on a show in Saudi Arabia, and it was a pretty big deal. In fact, it was an even bigger deal than I made it out to be at the time.
Oh.
So it came out over the course of the last week that they were getting paid somewhere in the range of like $100 to $200 million to put on a 10-year series of shows in Saudi Arabia. So for reference, that means they're getting paid about $10 to $20 million a year, and an average WrestleMania only makes them about $14 million.
Wow.
So, what I heard is like, you remember Gabriel Iglesias, I think, like the comedian guy.
Yeah.
And he was in Saudi Arabia as well. Apparently, the guys over there really like American entertainment.
Mm-hmm. So like this is not a new thing either. Like there's all kinds of exhibitions for like major, not soccer teams, not American football teams to go over there and put on exhibition matches for like the Saudi princes and things like that. Like this is not an unusual thing that's specific to wrestling. It's not like they suddenly became wrestling fans and that was like their only exposure to culture outside of Saudi Arabia.
Oh no, like I'm aware of there was someone who like Obscurus Lupa reviewed a movie called Sinbad and the Battle of the Dark Knights a while ago. It's a movie that like nobody in America's heard of, but it was filmed not in Saudi Arabia, but in like part of it was in Belgium, but part of it was I think it was Jordan. But a similar idea, like they just love like the whole experience over there and everything.
Yes. There's definitely culture in the world outside of America, in spite of what parts of the internet would have you believe.
Yeah, right.
This was definitely a vanity project for I guess it was like the Minister of Sports in Saudi Arabia. Like the word was that he asked for, and I quote, The Undertaker, Yokozuna, and the Ultimate Warrior to be members of the performance, and 2 of those 3 wrestlers are dead.
Yeah, are dead. Yeah.
So you need the Undertaker for that.
The Undertaker is the most alive person in that roster, and he plays a zombie, and
he's
the
53.
This is why you need the Undertaker to previously dig up the 3 other 2.
Yeah, I guess.
Digging holes and taking souls. That's one of his catchphrases.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. And bringing the souls back from the dead to wrestle in Saudi Arabia.
Whoa, a new power I wasn't aware of.
So there were 2 ways this show could have gone, so one was that it's a gigantic house show. So for like those of you unfamiliar with wrestling house shows, the WWF, they put on like 3 or 4 other shows a week besides what they tape for television, and they use that time to like test out angles. Basically, they put together pairs of wrestlers who they think are gonna have major pay-per-view matches, so they can kind of run through it and gauge the reaction for the crowd. Which means you almost always, partially to get fans in the gate, you almost always have like all the titles on the line at a house show, but the titles never actually change hands, and the matches are just the same over and over again every day for like a month.
Have the fans caught on to this?
I think they have. I think at this point they figured it out.
No, because because if they're still advertising, all the titles on their line are on the line, and they're just not. Is it still a draw?
They are on the line, but you're going to a wrestling show knowing like that the outcomes are predetermined, and like usually even on the major pay-per-view matches, you can kind of predict who the likely victors are. So it's not like that. That doesn't usually stop you. You just want to go and see your favorite wrestlers. You want to see.
I just wanted to say, like, honestly, why would we care about titles when you are there to watch two monster truck that looks like a man smash into each other?
Yeah, that's a good analogy for professional wrestling. It's a human monster truck fight.
Huh.
Except for one of the Hulk Hogan title matches that was actually a monster truck fight. So there were two ways this could have gone. One was that it was just like the most expensive house show ever, or the other was that it was actually like a pay-per-view that eclipsed WrestleMania, because it happened to be like 3 weeks after WrestleMania, and they were getting paid substantially more money to stage it. So like, I remember mentioning on last week's show that a lot of fans left WrestleMania feeling like they were a little bit disappointed that the storylines didn't really pan out to a climax, and people were like, oh no, this show at Saudi Arabia is the real WrestleMania, and we're going to see all the payoffs of these storylines we should have gotten. Like, why do we even bother watching WrestleMania when this like $20 million Saudi Arabia house show is going to have all the actual conclusions so that they can find this foothold and justify the amount of money that like got spent on this show. So like, neither of these outcomes are like actually compelling for television, at least from the standpoint of the American fans. So it was interesting because it's kind of a study from, because like the Americans are used to being the target audience for like 99% of wrestling, at least in terms of the WWE, not so much for like Lucha Libre and New Japan and stuff like that. Obviously those are and,
not a big export, you can't just package this Hulk Hogan and send it overseas.
Yeah, so like WWE in particular like really relied on nationalism a lot of the time. They've always relied on like the foreign heel, and even New Japan, like they rely on the Gaijin stable, like Kenny Omega, like they rely on the American wrestlers to come over and be villains. Like wrestling is like super nationalistic, and like even the Saudi Arabia show, like part of the reason they came over was to run tryouts for like whatever the local Saudi Arabia independent scene is, and to like recruit people to come back and to watch them on NXT. They did the same thing when they expanded into China. They recruited a couple of Chinese wrestlers to come over from the mainland and participate in NXT to come through developmental and eventually become like big time wrestlers. So like this is actually pretty unusual that the WWF has been interested in pushing signature stars, or like recruiting signature stars that might actually become main eventers who are not like strictly American. So in that sense, there are some like positives to take away, but like there are also like. Other than that, like both in terms of how people felt in the U.S. coming into the show, and also like how it was executed in terms of the overarching like narrative that WWE is trying to sell, like this show was just an absolute fucking disaster. I'm sure the people who came to watch it, like 70,000 people in the stadium, had a fantastic time. They seemed really excited, although you couldn't tell because the VIP stands, like the couches for the VIPs, for like the princes and the high-ranking officials, were so far away from the rest of the crowd that you could barely hear them for the majority of the match. There was like this gigantic vacuum of space between the VIP seats and like the plebeian seats.
Was it security reasons?
I don't think it was anything. I think it was literally just like a cast breakdown.
Oh.
Like based on social standing.
Ouch.
Yeah. So and like I am not an expert on Saudi Arabia culture. It was pretty amazing if you go on like the subreddit for wrestling or whatever, how many Americans and like suddenly become experts on Arabian culture.
Yeah,
like,
right.
Giving their commentary. It was pretty absurd. Like not realizing the show was not meant for them at all.
Yeah.
But certainly the WWF was marketing it like it was, and it has implications for like how people view the product going forward. So that the journalist Dave Meltzer sort of commented that it was a really dark day for the industry as a whole, and that like any single promotion would easily have taken the amount of money that the sports minister was throwing at the WWF to run this show. Like anybody would have done it. It was just an unbelievable amount of money from a wrestling standpoint, for the scope of the industry. Like anybody would have done it. But for the future of the industry, I think it's a little bit worrisome. So one thing I mentioned during last week's podcast was that we know for a fact that due to the religious conservatives of Saudi Arabia, the women wrestlers were banned. The fans who attended the show did not seem to mind. They probably would have enjoyed it, but like the upper crust of Saudi Arabia would not allow the women to even come into the country. So they stayed home, and they received what I was told was a paycheck comparable to that of the men, which is nice to get hundreds of thousands of dollars just to stay home and do nothing. But that's incredibly disappointing. And that like your company's getting a lot of money to put on these shows, and you will never be part of those shows.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, I mean, like, it's better. Like, it's better that they sent the money at all than didn't. But that's still like that's very backhanded.
Yeah,
Right. It's
you're being paid off basically.
Yeah.
You're being paid off not to make a scene on social media.
Yeah, it's like it's kind of hush money. Like maybe just be outright hush money.
Oh, I mean, so for the women it's hush money. For the men, like John Cena got up and he actually cut a promo on how excited he was to be in Saudi Arabia and how inspired he was to be here.
Oh, okay.
Basically, he got paid off to deliver like some propaganda from the Saudi Arabian government, and it was just like really unsettling to listen to him say this. And that was the one time that some of the female stars broke silence and like kind of grumbled a little bit at what they were listening to.
Well, yeah, because he's like the ultimate like, you know, like good guy, right? So to be supporting this kind of like, I mean, like what he would say would not be directly supporting this action, but it certainly implies it.
Yeah. So they're gonna point at like they're gonna basically become like fucking Sylvester Stallone from Rocky IV, where if you like watch the movie, you like it kind of feels like he's taking credit for ending the Cold War.
Yeah, that was like
you know, as he took over more and more of a producer role in the Rocky movies, he becomes like more and more messianic until all of a sudden like he's like actually like basically, you know, literally ending the Soviet
It was
Union by
me.
himself.
I was the guy. I beat one Russian boxer played by a Swedish person, and the Cold War ended.
I got the Russian crowd to cheer for me, played by American actors in America.
Yeah.
This brings me up a question: does Russian have like maybe related stuff?
Does it have its own like wrestling federation?
Well, not its own wrestling federation, but are there Russian wrestlers, and does U.S. exports WWF occasionally to Russia?
I honestly have no idea. I know that there are commonly wrestlers portrayed as Russian villains in WWF, but I don't know. Like there's a current guy by the name of Rusev. He's actually from Bulgaria, and like he played a character where he had like received the Medal of Honor from Vladimir Putin or like whatever. What I guess someone looked up on Wikipedia what like a major government military award is like from the original Soviet Union, and said that Vladimir Putin gave it to him, like in the height of like the 2016 election and like the Russian corruption probe into Donald Trump. Like they tried to play that off they tried to play him into a villain.
Okay.
But he's not from Russia. He's Bulgarian, and like he lives in America. He's married to a blonde woman from Florida. And he lives in Tennessee. Like he's not Russian.
Oh, that's right. Well, wasn't he the guy in Southpaw who was like getting his like homestead bought out by the bank?
He
wearing those
played
overalls?
Big Bartholomew the farmer.
Oh Lord.
The girl, she actually lived in Latvia for a few years, so she actually was from the former Soviet Union, one of the former states. But like I wouldn't say that she's an expert on the culture, like.
Yeah.
And she's definitely American. She's
I think I'm fairly sure every person who would want to see a Russian wrestler would think that is something out of Street Fighter.
Yeah, I mean, he definitely looks like Zangief. Like he plays the stereotype. He's like 300 pounds and he's built like a barrel.
Bear.
Yeah,
Release
like
the bear.
Yes, he's the Russian bear. He is definitely the stereotype. Like one of actually rest in peace Bruno Sammartino, the original WWF champion. Like he died last week at at the age of 82 or 2 weeks ago or something like that. And so he originally lost his title after carrying it for 8 years to a guy whose like epithet was the Russian bear. I think it was Ivan Koloff. So like they've been playing this angle for basically the entire history of the Federation. Like you know, I mean, but I mean that was in the '60s, like right after the height of McCarthyism, when America was still dealing with the Red Scare. So like it was, but like that's where they honed their business. Like that's how they made money, and like that literally the same person is still running the company. So you know he hasn't changed much. I guess it was his dad back then, but you know the apple doesn't fall far from the tree.
That would be a scary, like this 100-year-old man. He's watch, you know, it's sort of this. Stacy's Katsu watching.
Like I hid in a jar, still running WWE.
Well, I mean, Vince is not that far off from that. He's got an extremely artificial body. He's definitely partaking of some of the steroids that he peddled out to his wrestlers over the years. So even though he's 72, he looks quite a bit younger, except like from the head down. From the head up, he looks like a 70-year-old man. From the head down, he looks like it was transplanted onto like fucking Hulk Hogan.
I'm just having the most funniest visual images for that.
I mean, Vince is like as close to a cartoon supervillain as you're ever going to get in real life. He actually has a T-Rex skull in his office.
Yo.
That's cool.
Does he have a cat that he endlessly pets?
I doubt it, but like there are all these apocryphal stories about Vince McMahon that all of them are completely believable if you've ever watched him like give a live interview or talk at all. Like I've been told that like he gets mad if he sneezes because he can't control it. Like he just like has a fucking panic attack. Like I've been told that during WrestleMania weekend he tries to sleep as little as possible, and he like dares the other wrestlers to sleep as little as he does.
What?
It's just like you know, the company culture comes from the top, and like the WWF is one of the principal examples of that. And like that's part of what makes people so like nervous that what happened for this show, we're gonna get like Vince McMahon's twisted interpretation of it, and like the whole, and like he doesn't care about the implications of running a show where like he never cared about the women wrestlers before this, really, like they were always a sideshow to the main event. So like all of a sudden after years and years and years, they finally started having some like really high quality women matches. Like really like hiring some top tier talent from outside the country and allowing them to main event, and just like walk all of that back for $20 million. Like any and to know that any promotion would do it, even the ones that have like the ones that have good women's divisions, like just says a lot about the state of the industry. And for a lot of wrestling fans, it was like a dose of reality. It took away a lot of the escapism. Like even the fans watching from the Middle East, I was told, like the ones who were like reliably posting from the Middle East, you know, on the internet forums that I visit, said that this was hard for them, like to see this disconnect where they wanted to have all these people come in and like to get this like half-assed house show that it turned out to be, like that this was all the WWF was willing to have, like the juxtaposition of those two things, and they tried to go online and enjoy this house show with like American and European and Japanese fans, and they all like hated it. It was a terrible show. Like I said, it was a glorified house show. None of the titles changed hands. Most of the matches were just terrible.
That's what I was going to ask. Like, it was a terrible show, like, anyway.
So, like, it seemed like everybody was extremely jet-lagged. There were a lot of really obvious botches. So, like, some of them were difficult to watch. The Cruiserweight Championship, which is usually, like, the high-flying thing. The guy who is currently the champion, he did, like, a dive over the top rope. And, like, he very visibly, like, scraped his crotch on the rope as he went over. Like he got his like ball hung up on the rope. It was really uncomfortable to watch, and they showed the replay of his like the elasticity of his crotch like over and over and over again.
No.
because the point was to show the acrobatics of him flipping over the top rope. We just got like his junk bouncing back and forth.
Yeah, that sucks.
Like if it wasn't so stupid, I would like it would have been terrible. But it was hypnotic.
It was hypnotic. I want to look away, but I can't.
There was a US
testy festy.
Yeah, you could say he was testy after the match. So there was the U.S. title match, which was between Jeff Hardy and Jinder Mahal. I talked about Jinder Mahal a while ago. He was like this guy who randomly also became a foreign heel. He's playing a Punjabi heel, but he's from Canada.
That's right. Yeah.
I mean, he is a Punjabi descent, but he is from Canada. So like he would cut all these promos about how he was speaking to like the 1.3 million people his 1.3 million people back in India, you know, where he's like never been to India except for a WWE show.
Yeah, it's a little weird.
Yeah. So he wrestled against Jeff Hardy, who was the current he was Broken Matt's brother, like basically pretending like he didn't know Matt because Matt's so weird right now. Like with that whole
you said that
gimmick.
Jeff was the better like technical wrestler, right?
Jeff was like the guy with more charisma, and he was more physically capable. Yes, he was the guy who actually wound up winning the championship.
Okay, and Matt made up for not having quite that much with his like insane Broken Matt Hardy act.
Yeah, he had the great mind for the business, so he like reinvented himself over and over and over again. Whereas Jeff was mostly just himself.
Okay.
So like this broken gimmick is just like the latest phase of him like coming into his own.
That is pretty great.
As a character. So it's like pretty funny because like they're not even on the same show. Matt's on Raw and Jeff is on SmackDown, and they and so like they run into each other once in a while backstage, and like Jeff pretends like he's still in on the delusion when he talks to Matt, and then he walks away like I don't know what the fuck that was about.
That's great.
Which is like actually how the whole thing started. Like they had a match on TNA like years ago, and like Matt, he lost, and then he just went slowly insane, and like it was all about how like Jeff would go home and talk to Matt's wife and like his son and his father-in-law, and they just wouldn't know how to talk to him because like he was descending into this madness. And
That's
like
kind of brilliant.
And like he played a character who thought he was an evil genius, but he was just an idiot who thought he was an evil genius. And like that was what that juxtaposition was what made it so enjoyable to watch. And then like they just really like totally reveled in it once it became really popular.
That is
like, it really went they just really went all in on it. And you know, it's nice that the WWE is allowed to do it now. They got the rights to the characters in the universe so that they can continue basically where they left off in TNA after like this 1 year, you know, hiatus in the storyline. So like that's great. But Jeff, you know, he's in his own world right now. He's separated from Matt, and he had a title match, and he did a finishing move off the top rope, and he missed completely.
Ooh.
Like the other guy, for one, that's hard on Jeff because he hits the canvas hard.
Yeah.
And for two, the other guy, like he just like
what does
fell.
He do? Sit there?
Yeah, he just fell as though he got hit, even though he obviously was like not anywhere near the move. He didn't even try to improvise. Like usually,
I was just gonna say, like you gotta like try to find a way to like, oh, bet you can't do it again, or some contrived whatever.
Yeah, exactly. Usually Jeff would just get up and like punch him, and then just set the move up again, and they just do it again. And they would, and like that's how you do it at a house show. It's just like they didn't have their wits about them. It seemed.
Yeah.
And like I guess Ginger's not that good of a wrestler that he was able to improvise on his feet. So it just like destroyed the flow of the match. That like the commentators had to explain this stupid botch. Where like and Jinder even went on Twitter after the match. He was like, "Oh, I was just playing possum. I knew that he didn't hit me. I was just pretending to be hit."
You know what it makes me think of? Like one of the opening scenes of the first Mortal Kombat movie, where like before they make it clear that Johnny Cage is a movie star, you just see him fighting these 4 mysterious goons, and he just like destroys 3 of them, and then like does like a super finishing kick on the 4th guy, who takes it as a regular kick that's still setting up the finish. So he's standing there groggy, and then Johnny Cage says like, "You're supposed to fall down," and then the guy goes, "Ha!" He just goes like flying backward. Nice. Like just like I guess that's the scene, and you're like, oh, it was the movie the whole time. Like that's just kind of what that makes me think of.
I do remember.
Yeah,
that
but so that's why it's such a big deal, because he says like, "Oh, I was just pretending to be hit." It's like it's fucking wrestling. Of course you're pretending to be hit.
He's playing the meta game, man. He was pretending
hiding the Gillette blade under your glove.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, I mean, they don't do that anymore.
You're not allowed to.
Yeah, you're not allowed to cut yourself to get bloody. They say that they do that once in a while for WrestleMania, like if they really want the main event to be bloody, but they don't do that anymore in general. Actually, this was a big controversy because Brock Lesnar bloodied Randy Orton in one of their matches. And he actually did it like legit. Like he actually just elbowed him until he started bleeding from the forehead, and like concussed Randy Orton.
Ow!
Goddamn!
And it's like, Jesus, if you're gonna do that, you might as well let him use the fucking blade.
Yeah, right. I mean, I didn't think they actually connected with those hits. I thought it was just like from the camera, like maybe you, but like only if you were right up there would you be able to tell that they were not connecting.
They usually don't, but it's inevitable if you pretend to hit somebody 100 times in 30 minutes that you might accidentally connect once or twice. Like John Cena's gotten his nose broken several times because he just loves taking knees to the face. I mean, I would assume from the amount of times that it's happened that he must really like it.
He fiercely knows the enemy's knee.
Mm-hmm. He's like Zio from that One Piece arc. He's like I'm hitting your knee with my nose.
Oh, that's familiar. Who was this?
That's the one of the guys from the Fishman Island arc, where like every time he takes a move, he's like, "Oh, I meant to do that." I'm
the really elegant like octopus guy or squid guy or something. Yeah, the one who, like, when he turned invisible, like, all of his own goons trampled him because they didn't know he was there. He's like, "Don't worry, guys, it's fine." Like, didn't feel a thing. And they're like, "Oh, so dignified." That guy was great.
I feel happy.
Yes, exactly like that.
Wrestling is such a jape sometimes, isn't it?
Yes, it is. Like, what else? So this was also the last supposedly match between Brock Lesnar and Roman Reigns. So we spent like 30 minutes last week talking about why everybody hates Roman Reigns and why he's failed as like a main eventer. In the WWE. And like this is supposed to be his big blow off match. This is what made people so mad. It's like why do you have like you set up this like big WrestleMania coronation where Roman Reigns is supposed to beat Brock Lesnar and then he just loses and it never feels like he's even in the match? Is it because they're going to have this steel cage match, which is usually where feuds end? at the house show in Saudi Arabia, and like that's going to be your big fucking payoff. That's going to be the end of like 4 years worth of storyline, like not at WrestleMania, at this other show.
Yeah.
Like that, it kind of like it's really cool. Like if you want a signature moment for like this new territory that you're trying to expand into, and like you want like these fans who have never really watched a live show on this scale to get to see like a a title change and like to see Brock Lesnar defeated.
You'd think you could start a new arc or something, you know?
Mm-hmm. But like you could do that at WrestleMania, and then you could start the new arc and show the first chapter at the house show. And
yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. Like, yeah, like all the payoff to this, and it's like something else somewhere else. Like, oh.
And so like not only did Reigns lose again, but they also fucked up the finish badly.
Oh no.
So it was a steel cage match. So steel cages are like, I do not like the way they do this kind of match in WWE right now. So like in a steel cage match, you can win the normal way by pinfall or submission, but you can also win by escaping the cage, which usually means that like you climb out of it most of the time.
No, I remember I saw Spoonie on Twitter posting about this, why he hates steel cage matches in general, because it's like, I'm going to show you how badass I am and how much I hate you by running away, and now I'm the winner. What? Yeah.
So the current
hold on. And what happens if you throw your opponent out?
If you throw, well, I'm getting to that. Let's get to the finish.
Oh,
all right.
So the other problem with steel cage matches is that they used to be a solid structure, just like four walls of blue bars.
Yeah.
But like the current steel cage just has a door, and you can just ask for it to be opened, and you can walk out, which makes it like...
Wait, you can ask for it to be opened?
Yes, you can ask for the door to be opened.
You don't have to make a song and dance about like breaking it open or something? Or like messing with the lock until it opens while the opponent has a chance to grab you, like a ladder match, like you're climbing the ladder, so the opponent just gets to the ladder.
He just has to grab your feet, and if you're just walking out of the fucking cage, there's no with that in mind, there's no reason to try to climb over the cage. You would just walk out the door. Why would you ever climb the cage?
That's a case where that's a case where you could like really like just crack an opponent in the face, and while he's down, you could literally just walk to the door. Like, well, he won't be up for a little while, and just like peace out.
Usually they get around this in like regular steel cage matches by having the heel have goons who like stalk the outside of the cage. So you have to like climb over it.
But you'd think that like, according to form, wouldn't escaping the cage be a heel move anyway? Like, wouldn't like the goons could be there for show, but wouldn't you think the babyface would want to KO the guy in the cage?
Yes, you are definitely correct. Okay, and, like that's why so like usually the point of a steel cage would be to like force the heel and the face in the same ring, because the heel has been like avoiding the face. You put them in a cage, they can't get out, they're locked in together, they have a grudge match to the death, till to the finish.
Sure.
But like that's not how. So like there have been some really good steel cage match finishes. Like there was one where the Big Show actually like slammed a guy through the ring. When the Big Show was the face. So the Big Show was the face, and he did exactly what you're talking about. The Big Show walked out of the door and thought that he won, but it turned out the heel crawled out from under the ring after being slammed through it. And like he was behind the camera, so nobody saw it, and so like all the fans were like, what the fuck just happened? Why didn't he win the match? And they show the guy just like reaching his hand out from like under the ring after being like crushed through the bottom of the stage.
Jeez. Actually, I thought they weren't even going to go that far. I thought it was going to be like the fact that he's through the floor already means he's out. Like, technically he's out the moment Big Show shoved him through, so I guess the match is just over.
I guess it goes by football, like American football rules, where you have to break the plane and touch the ground.
Yeah.
And as it turns out, that was also how they fucked up the finish of the Lesnar match. Because the finish was that Reigns was supposed to spear Lesnar through the cage, and then the cage wall falls down, and they both roll down, and then Lesnar was supposed to roll off of the cage onto the floor to win the match.
That would have been a nice one.
But instead, Reigns rolled off the cage, and it looked like he won. And so the referee
just had to say, like, no, actually, hand
so
wave.
The referee just says, oh, actually, Lesnar won the match, and, like, nobody knows why. Like,
because, oh, no. We changed our rules since the show.
I was told,
Brock Lesnar is if every wrestler is a monster truck, Brock Lesnar is the dump truck, right?
Yes, Brock. So actually, I heard Brock Lesnar recently described as a balloon filled to the brim with mayo, and like that's actually kind of a description of how he looks like. The guy who's the real dump truck is Mark Henry. like is a wrestler and like might actually be like the strongest man to have ever lived.
Jesus.
Like he's like legit like ridiculously strong. I saw a video of him competing recently at not recently, like before he came to the WWF, at one of those like Arnold Schwarzenegger strongman competitions.
Yeah.
And like he lifted this barbell that like only like 5 or 6 men in the history of the competition had ever lifted once.
Christ.
And he lifted it like 3 times. And like one of the other guys actually passed out behind him.
Jesus.
So yeah, like there's a story about Mark Henry that like he was supposed to bend a stainless steel frying pan for like a gimmick to like set up how strong he was for a match. So they bought they meant to buy a fake frying pan, but they accidentally bought a real stainless steel frying pan, and he's like trying to bend it and he can't. And he gets like really angry, and he actually like rolls up a real stainless steel frying pan into like a pancake basically.
Christ.
And like it was like I heard it described as like watching the Hulk up into a bigger Hulk.
That's terrifying. Can you imagine the people like? I'm just imagining the people who bought the pan, like, oh shit, it's a real pan, and then they see him bend it. Like that's got to be just like. It makes me think of Seinfeld. Do you remember that episode of Seinfeld where he dated that woman like with man hands?
I know that episode, yes.
Yeah, where you see her like breaking a lobster in half with her bare hands, and Jerry's
yeah.
just like, oh, like just like that look, like oh god.
Well, like, I just like that, but like actually an
yeah, just watching Mark Henry like build a real pan, like oh shit.
Oh god, what this man going to do with me in the backstage?
Yeah, no kidding. Don't piss this guy off.
So Henry had actually retired, and he went into the Hall of Fame. But I guess for a chunk of that $20 million, he was willing to come out of retirement to wrestle in the Greatest Royal Rumble as one of the 50 participants.
It also makes me think of Hugo from Street Fighter Third Strike, where like, did you ever play Third Strike?
I have not, but you can tell me the story.
Yeah, Hugo's ending is hilarious because you see all these wrestlers getting in the ring for this big competition. Like, who's gonna win? And all of a sudden, the whole ring lifts up, and Hugo's under the ring, just lifting the ring with everyone in it. And it's like, nice. Oh, well, guess we're not doing this anymore.
Okay, so I'll get to that in a bit, but one more before we get to the Royal Rumble itself, and well, I guess it's worth. Oh yeah, The Undertaker. The Undertaker had a match at the Greatest Royal Rumble. He hasn't had very many matches except at WrestleMania in years. And it's assumed that he came out of retirement at this previous WrestleMania, undoing the whole point of him having a retire match with Roman Reigns, like last year, just to come back and get the money and the paycheck to wrestle at like the Greatest Royal Rumble. Because they wanted The Undertaker. So he came in and he had so the issue with The Undertaker is that, for one, he's like in his early 50s and he can barely move in the ring. He's had hip replacement surgery. But like, if it was just about the spectacle, like he's got a lot of presence. So like, just having him in the ring is very cool. He doesn't really have to do a lot. But like, an issue is that his finishing move is the pile driver, the tombstone pile driver.
Oh no.
Him and Kane are the only guys who are still allowed to do a pile driver in the WWF. Any variation of the pile driver.
Wait, why allowed?
So
I guess because you are putting someone on their head.
Yeah, it's been banned since 98 or 99 because Steve Austin broke his neck taking a pile driver from Owen Hart.
Wait, so the only 2 people they allow to do it are the 2 biggest freaking giants?
Well, so that's why. So like a regular pile driver, you've got your opponent's head cradled between your legs, and you fall back and you pile drive them into the ground.
Oh, okay.
For the tombstone pile driver, you're holding them in front of you, and you come down on your knees. So their head is like between your legs, and because the Undertaker and Kane are so tall, it's really hard for a guy's head to ever actually really be close to the ground.
Okay, because I was thinking the opposite. Like I didn't think of how they would cushion for it. I'm like, the one guy I wouldn't want to get pile driven by is like the strongest guy,
the biggest.
No,
it's like, oh no.
Actually, the strongest guy would be the best because he could compensate with his strength for like.
So all the weight. So Dracologist is totally right. All the weight is coming from you. They're trying to control you as you fall.
That's true. Yeah.
So actually, yeah, the safest guy to give a pile driver will be Mark Henry.
Well, and this is why I'm not into. This is why I'm not a wrestler. Other than the fact that I weigh like 45 pounds after I've been in the pool.
Any man with 2 hands and no chin has a fighting chance. Actually,
maybe I do have a chance.
So just a brief aside. So James Ellsworth is still active in wrestling, and he's like a really big deal now because he had some time in the WWE. And he posted on Twitter a while ago that today one of my hands fell asleep while I was sleeping, so I didn't have a fighting chance. But then it came back to life.
That's great,
and my fighting chance is back.
That's so good.
He's actually taken on the Andy Kaufman role.
Oh.
Like he's so Andy Kaufman had this whole thing where where like he was gonna wrestle Jerry the King Lawler. So he found a woman who weighed the same as Jerry the King Lawler, and he like and he showed off that he could beat her. To really, really make him the awful
What an
heel.
asshole.
Like, yeah,
I remember Vice told me about that a few times. He'd be on his promos, like, any woman who wants to come fight me, I'll do it. It's like, wow, dude, okay.
It's like Jerry the King Lawler is 280 pounds. As long as you weigh less than 280 pounds, I'll take you on. Any woman in the audience.
Get out of here.
So, this would be brilliant if someone would came up and like that woman would pile drive him.
Well, I mean, he did actually, like, yes, that would have been really funny, and it probably would have happened in today's WWF, but it didn't in the the 70s. Or
Well, no,
80s.
didn't Kaufman finally fight Lawler, and then like he had a whole bit afterward where he was like in a neck brace, and he's like, fuck all you, and like that whole thing.
Yes, yeah. Yes. And like supposedly, Jim Carrey, when he was playing Andy Kaufman in the movie, like tried to like piss off Jerry the King Lawler the same way.
Oh,
like,
wow.
Just to get into character.
That's amazing.
Like, really pissed off Jerry.
Oh, he actually did? Because I was going to say, I thought Andy Kaufman and Jerry Lawler, like, in real life, were just, like, friends and, like, in on it. It's like, this is pretty funny. Like, that's it.
You mean Lawler and Kaufman?
Yeah, I mean, like, actual Kaufman, yeah.
I honestly have no idea. And to be honest, you never know if a wrestler tells a story if it's actually true. So,
okay, that's
I
fair,
take everything
yeah.
with a grain of salt.
Okay.
So yeah, like I guess the main event is the Royal Rumble, the greatest Royal Rumble. By that I mean like the middling Royal Rumble. It had 50 guys in it, of which like maybe 4 or 5 of them were actually like interesting. Like usually the excitement of the Royal Rumble is that like every 90. So just for staging for framing, the Royal Rumble is a match where every 90 seconds a guy comes out. Until 50 guys have come out. It says 90, but it's really like whatever a convenient time is for another guy to come into the ring.
It basically turns from a wrestling match to a mosh pit.
Yes, that's because like the way to eliminate someone is to throw them over the top rope and have both their feet hit the floor. So like it literally is a mosh pit. You've got all these guys who are always up on each other's shoulders and trying not to be thrown out of the ring.
Yeah.
Like it's an excellent analogy. But like the 50 guys, so like usually you wait every 90 seconds for somebody really fun to come out, like some old wrestler you haven't seen in years, or like some guy who's been injured for a while, or like some guy who got rehired from another company. Like that's part of the excitement. The 50 guys in this match, like aside from a couple of interesting ones who had been like around the WWF, like Jericho, like he comes back all the time, but he hadn't been actively wrestling for the WWF in a while. Like he was advertised. And Rey Mysterio was advertised, and like Kevin Owens, and like all the other, like aside from those guys, like the rest of the field of 50 guys was like completely mundane, just like absolutely fucking nobody. Daniel Bryan was there; he was number 1.
You know what they should have had? They should have had like 16 Doink the Clowns.
That would have been better than what they actually had.
That would have been hilarious.
I would have loved it if they just had Doink come out like 20 times in a row. That would
Who's
have been
the
great.
real Doink? They're all the real Doink.
So probably the best thing that happened during
we are Doink.
Probably the best thing that happened the entire we are the Doink. We are the people.
Each time someone gets thrown into the ring, they must become another Doink.
Yes. I was doing We Are the World, We Are the People. But, yours,
like the Venom.
We Are Venom, yeah.
Yes. Yours is also good.
We'll eat your brains.
So the best thing that happened the entire match was that one wrestler tripped, like when he was almost at the bottom of the ramp, and like slid all the way down, all the way under the ring.
Was this supposed to happen?
No, this was not supposed to happen.
Oh no!
So supposedly Vince was in the back in tears, like laughing at this, to the point where like the commentators couldn't commentate. They were not paying any attention to the match. They were just laughing for like 15 minutes.
That's amazing.
They showed the replay like 5 times in a row.
Oh, I feel so bad for that guy though.
So
doesn't matter. So, he made people happy.
Yeah.
He made so like they've turned this into an angle. Like so, his name is Titus O'Neil, and he's part of a stable called Titus Worldwide. He's like a nobody, but his gimmick is that he like attracts other nobodies to him to be part of this like almost like a scam artist. Like he's running this corporation to make them successful, but he's so unsuccessful that nobody would ever believe that he knows like how to be successful. So he's part of Titus Worldwide, and so like immediately after the match, they were like hashtag Titus World Slide.
That's great.
And he's got a shirt that's got like a picture of his feet like sticking out from the bottom of the ring, and,
like the freaking Wicked Witch of the East.
Yes, I think he actually did it as part of his entrance today. like
Nice.
on Raw, just like to like really beat the dead horse of like him and having this one big moment.
That is pretty good though.
So
you can only do
that
this
was-
only a few times though. You have to come up with something new.
Yeah.
You have to start
I
being
don't-
serious for a while. And
You
go
can't
until your
always
next
trip and
fuck up.
slide multiple feet.
I don't think you understand how the WWF marketing works right now. He is going to slide to that ring every fucking day for the next year.
Speaking of which, when can I buy a mower of lawns shirt from Matt Hardy?
I think that already exists. I actually.
No, I know you linked me to it.
Oh yeah. So
It's
I
like,
mean,
yes,
I mean,
mower
I
of
mean,
lawns.
it's actually kind of funny because like a lot of the time they make shirts like they made like a John Cena shirt before he had a title match to win the title. It said like John Cena, 15-time world champ. I was like, why would you fucking sell this shirt now? Why would you sell this shirt if he's about to win for the 16th time? Why would I believe that he's gonna win? This shirt will be useless to me next week if he wins.
That's true. And as to mention, if he doesn't win, then spoilers.
Yeah, if he doesn't win, then you just... I mean, like I said, a lot of the time you can tell who's going to win the match beforehand. You know, but, like, at least sometimes they pretend like it's actually up for grabs. And sometimes it's still, like, kind of 50-50. But no, not if they sell a shirt that doesn't go up by the number 1, you know, when he's got a match coming up. So, yeah. So, the winner of the match was Braun Strowman, which makes sense. Like he's the biggest and most dominant guy they have on the roster right now. He eliminated 13 guys, which is actually a record for the most eliminations in a Royal Rumble, which he took from Roman Reigns. I mean, he had an advantage because there were 20 more guys in this Royal Rumble than your average Royal Rumble. So of course
that's true. Like if the first Royal Rumble you eliminate everybody, but there's only 10 guys, it's like, well,
right. But he will always have that record, and it kind of points to the fact that like first Roman Reigns was unsuccessful in several attempts and to take the title off of Lesnar, and like Strowman is now like this big like hyper popular guy and like the next big thing. It really feels like they're just taking everything off of Reigns. They've like put him in the downward spiral. They put him on cooldown, and like everything now is going towards Braun Strowman, who just like he's awesome, but like the Giants and the way they book them in the WWE is just like substantially more limited in terms of what they're able to get away with and like how much legs their character has. Sure. Like how many stories you can get out of them compared to Reigns, who like for all of his inability to get over as a main event character, like is extremely talented and extremely charismatic and could have been the face of the company if they'd like really let him run with it.
Yeah.
So this felt like kind of like a house show that did absolutely nothing except like kill Roman Reigns.
Oof.
Which is kind of unfortunate because like John
he was supposed to win against Brock Lesnar anyway, so like he did it to himself.
So like what have we been fucking waiting for? Like you've been putting everything, so like all of the history, all of the heat from the Undertaker's streak, which includes like Shawn Michaels retiring, Triple H becoming a part-timer, Ric Flair retiring. It's all tied into that storyline. You gave all that heat to Brock Lesnar. Whoever beats Brock Lesnar for the title, like they're gonna and he retired. Brock Lesnar retired Goldberg. So like you've got that now tied up in that string. You know, so like whoever beats Lesnar for the title is going to inherit all that heat. You know, like they've been building Reigns for years to become like the vessel for that, like the next protagonist in that storyline. You know, and now for it to have just gone absolutely nowhere, it's a good answer to Fakafan's question from Tuesday's podcast.
Oh yeah, the build up that led to nothing.
Yeah,
and it wasn't a red herring; it just led to nothing.
Yeah, so like all of WrestleMania felt like that. Asuka didn't win the title. Shinsuke Nakamura didn't win the title, although he's been great. He had a title match. Like that was the one good match that they had, the rematch between Nakamura and AJ Styles. Nakamura has been fantastic. He turned heel at WrestleMania, and like they're actually letting him, like the baby faces are really bland in WWE, or they tend to be, with a few exceptions like CM Punk and Daniel Bryan, who were like their underdog status is part of their charm, but usually they're just like really boring. Nakamura, now that he's a heel, like his personality and his charisma is coming out. It's great. Like his gimmick right now is actually that just like in every fucking match he's like the current title holder is AJ Styles, and like every time they have an encounter, Nakamura just like kicks him in the balls or punches him in the balls over and over and over again, to the point where like they had a poll on the main WWE site that said like, should AJ Styles wear a cup to his next match against Nakamura? And the answers were like yes and definitely yes. So like, and then like the backstage interviewer like asked him like, why do you keep punching AJ Styles in the balls? And he just looks at her and he's like, sorry, no speak English, in like this like hyper affected accent, and he just like walks away.
That's amazing.
It's great. But then he was tweeting later in the day, and like the announcer Corey Graves was like, "Oh my god, it's a miracle! You can't speak English, but you can tweet it just fine." And he just starts like tweeting. He's just like
maybe they should ask him on Twitter why he punches AJ Styles in the balls.
And he's just like on
interesting
Twitter, he was just like, "Sorry."
of the Crouching Dragon.
Yes. Nice. Yeah. So
Crunching Dragon.
The Crunching Dragon. Actually, so like there was before their last match, there was like a Snickers logo in like a really weird place, so it looked like his name was Shinsuke Snickers Nakamura.
I think you might have mentioned that before, which is amazing. That's so good.
Yeah, it was great. So he changed his Twitter handle to that for a little while.
Yeah, I do remember you mentioning that. That's brilliant.
And so when he turned heel and he kept punching AJ, they were like, you're not you when you're hungry. Maybe you should
exactly.
grab
Yeah, maybe.
So
yeah.
I was like, I don't know. He's been getting a fistful of nuts every week, and he still seems to be kind of a dick.
well, maybe he also needs chocolate and caramel on top of those.
Clearly, that was what did it.
Yeah, because like the Snickers isn't just nuts. You gotta have the rest of the bar.
Testicles and hot caramel doesn't take
Rocky Mountain oysters, Rocky Mountain Snickers. So Nakamura, he has like this amazing theme song that everybody loves, like humming along to. Mm-hmm. I think we've talked about this before on the podcast. Even like Vice's other friend who watches wrestling, Stephanie, she mentioned this, that she had been listening to like his theme song on repeat over and over again. He re-recorded the theme song. It was previously instrumental, and now it has Japanese lyrics, so that no Americans can sing along with it.
That's fantastic.
It's like the lyrics came in at a weird like part in the first measure of the song. So like you're humming along, and then all of a sudden these lyrics come in. And you're like, wait a minute, what the heck is this?
That's great.
It was a really subtle touch, but I was super stoked about it because it seemed like a very exciting like addition to his character. But then I found out that like the lyricist and the singer were like not native Japanese speakers, and like the Japanese WWE fans like hated the fucking song because I guess the lyrics were terrible. So it's like, man, I really wanted to like something about like this month in wrestling, and you just like fucked it up for me.
Even that. I still say that the best wrestler theme is not the actual theme, but like the Sega Genesis version of IRS's theme. Do you remember how that one worked?
No, please tell me.
It's just typing like on a typewriter. Nice. It's really funny. Like apparently, I didn't realize this until way later, but he actually has a real theme. You just almost never hear it because he showed up with like the $1 Million
Man. Yeah.
But like, if you just look up IRS's theme on YouTube, I think the Genesis thing will come up, and it's just like tick 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 tick. It's like, really? Like, it's super funny.
So there was like a women's jobber who came out. She was actually like a famous independent wrestler named Leva Bates. She was like a cosplayer, so she was really popular among nerdy internet circles. And so she came out in this like really colorful costume, and like the valet for the women's wrestler who was supposed to fight her, he just ad-libbed her introduction. He was like, "Yo, straight off the clearance rack, it's blue pants."
Oh, I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah, and so he starts singing the Price is Right theme song instead of like playing the real entrance. And so like she came back because she was so popular. Like she's actually a really good wrestler. And they just called her Blue Pants, and they played, instead of like, they didn't even get like licensed the Price is Right theme music. They just played that guy singing the Price is Right theme music.
Oh, that's
as her
good
music.
Oh, I love stuff like that where they just have fun with like the thing that happened.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. Like it's fun when they actually run with something organic, which they almost never do.
I don't know. I'm waiting for Japanese is a wrestler to like enter to the team of Awaken from
Theme of
GGBA.
What was it?
Hold on a second. I just wanted to say that I'm waiting for some Japanese wrestler to come into the team of Awaken from GGBA. Okay.
I know that a lot of Japanese wrestlers do come into anime theme songs, like in particular. Like so, like I don't think anything is actually beyond them. I know that Minoru Suzuki, like this like really old. Oh, okay. JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Awakening theme. Yes, I know that this happened sometimes, or they hired the singers for anime theme songs to write their entrance themes.
It's not lyrical actually. Mm-hmm. Just really bombastic.
Okay, I mean, I could see it happen, and I bet it does happen on the independents where they don't have to worry about licensing the music. Like I said, I know that one of the guys like is a really big One Piece fan, has like actually voiced the character in One Piece. like has the devil fruit carved into his hair.
That's fantastic. You might have told me this, but do you know which character he voiced?
It wasn't a major character. It was like a side.
Sure.
It was a side character from one of like the Chopper Man shorts. He was like the announcer.
Oh, okay.
It's really clear that he's a wrestler because he's like a huge fucking guy in the just like announcing the.
Nice. That reminds me of like when Randy Savage played the wrestler in Dexter's Laboratory. He was just like this big beefy wrestler guy. It's like, well, there
he's
we go.
basically playing himself, but also a take on.
And same goes for Bonesaw when he also played himself.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Bonesaw is ready.
You play what you know.
Yep. He knows wrestling.
Well, he used to.
Yes.
Another like so like we talked about this a little bit. Oh yeah. So the on the topic of dead wrestlers, I mentioned that they wanted Yokozuna.
Yeah.
And he's been dead for several years.
Yeah.
They brought in Hiroki Sumi, who was a legitimate sumo wrestler.
Oh.
And like a top level sumo champ. He's like 400 pounds. And I was like, I remember thinking like, who is this guy? Is he like why is he in the Royal Rumble? And the announcers played him up like, I heard rumors Hiroki Sumi was joining the. I was like, what rumors? Who had even heard of this guy before? I had trouble finding him on Google because just like at least based on like in my like geographic area, nobody's searching for sumo wrestlers. So like Mark Henry threw him out. Just like picked him up like he was a bag of potatoes and tossed him out of the ring.
Shit! That's gonna be terrifying because like I mean this is not gonna be new information to anybody, but like the entire point of sumo wrestling is to be not able to be budged. Mm-hmm. Like you're not punching people, you're mainly trying to slap and push them out of the ring. So like that has to be legitimately scary for like a sumo wrestler, like an actual one, to just be picked up. Like what the fuck? Like that's
by an even bigger guy. Yes.
Yeah, like come on.
Mark Henry is fucking terrifying. I mean, he seems like a real nice guy. You know, like in real life. He's also
it's like what I heard about the guy who played the Mountain in Game of Thrones. Apparently, he's like a cool guy, but it's like when you watch him on the show, it's like Christ.
So like before Mark Henry retired recently, but like 2 or 3 years ago, he actually planned a retirement segment for Raw. And he gave this unbelievable retirement speech. It was like 10, 15 minutes long. He was crying. His daughter was in the stands. And it was just like this incredibly emotional and touching scene. And then John Cena comes out, who's the current title holder, and like points at Mark Henry, holds up his hand, you know, and like the whole crowd is cheering. This goes on and on and on for like 15 minutes. And then Henry just picks up Cena and tosses him into the ground. He's like, I'm not finished with you yet. Y'all are puppets. I got a lot left in the tank. And it's like, it was a fake retirement segment that he sold for like an unbelievably long time. It's like one of the best retirement speeches I've ever seen in wrestling, and it was fake.
That's pretty great. And then the real retirement, he's just like, well, see you guys. He just walks out.
Well, in the real retirement, he just stopped showing up on television for a while, and eventually we found out that he was retired. Like, that's usually how it happens.
Yeah.
And like, it was kind of funny because he was wearing this like bright salmon suit, and like when it came out that he was going to be in the Hall of Fame, people just kept fucking asking him, like, are you going to wear the salmon suit again? And if you do, I don't fucking believe that you're actually retired. And it turned out he wasn't. He was at the Greatest Royal Rumble.
Nice.
Probably. What is a person like this doing in his retirement? Like going up in the Canadian woods and breaking grizzly bears in half?
I mean, I naively, if I never see him again, that's what I'd like to think that he's going to do. But
it's what Zangief does. He just wrestles bears.
He's probably going to become a trainer. I think he already is.
Mm-hmm.
That's like I mean, like if you've been wrestling for 25 years, is what you know best. And so like a lot of these guys, they open wrestling schools. I mean, if you're Kane, you run for the mayor of Knoxville, which he is doing.
Huh. Is he going to be silent and just raise his arms and fire comes out?
He's actually extremely intelligent and very well spoken. He's a libertarian, and he has been for years. He runs a real estate agency, and this is really disappointing to learn about Kane.
He's not actually a devil spawn, the big red machine.
Yeah, no. He's not a devil spawn, but he is a politician, so he's not that far off.
Oh.
What else? I mean, like Rhino ran for Jesse Ventura. Obviously, he was governor of.
Jesse Ventura was governor of Kentucky. Was it
Minnesota?
Oh, excuse me. You know what it was? Because I remember in the movie Predator, Schwarzenegger became governor of California. Jesse Ventura was, what'd you say, Minnesota? I think the guy who played Billy, like the generally silent guy, Billy, get to the chopper. I think he didn't make it, but he ran for governor. I think he was Kentucky.
Nice.
It's like, what is it with Predator and like everyone's running for governor? It's so bizarre. The same goes for The Running Man. It's another Schwarzenegger Jesse Ventura movie. Like, they're both governors.
Like, it's just those two guys. It's those two guys specifically, right? Like,
I know, but it just cracks me up.
Really,
like just watch Running Man, watch Schwarzenegger and Jesse Ventura. Those guys became governors.
I do remember that in ages ago, decades ago, there was like a sort of this Flash like program that had like a little like this Flash game where there was a Jesse Ventura action figure, like how he will solve these governmental problems, like body slamming.
And then of course Ronald Reagan became president. Like he's more known as a president now, but he was an actor first.
So when you watch like a compilation of like Stone Cold Steve Austin's stunners, like his finishing moves, the worst ones that he's ever given were to Lyndon McMahon and Donald Trump. All three of these people, Austin, McMahon, and Trump, are Republicans. Two of them are part of the current presidential administration. One of them is not, and it's Steve Austin.
It's so weird.
He's like by far the most charismatic of all of them.
Well, Steve Austin dedicated his talents to being a recurring guest character on Celebrity Deathmatch, the claymation show,
and a member of the Expendables.
He couldn't.
He was a villain in the Expendables.
Yeah, I mean he was a member of the cast.
Yes.
Of the movie.
Yeah, Randy Couture lit him on fire and then punched him in the fucking head.
Nice.
Jesus.
wanted to say that it isn't like he couldn't get a proper hold on the greasy skin of President Cheetos.
Yes. Yes. No further comment is necessary. Actually, like it's kind of funny because like Trump was on because he was having a hair versus hair match with Vince McMahon. Like,
that's fantastic.
That's how he wound up because like it's hilarious because like Trump wears a toupee and like he wasn't actually putting anything up for because he didn't have any actual hair.
That's pretty good.
Like Vince, he got shaved. He lost that match. I forget. Like they had proxies who were actually wrestling on their behalf. I forget who actually.
Oh yeah. Because they're not going to do a proper several minute long wrestling match. Like come on.
Like Trump is a WWF Hall of Famer and he has been for a long time because like WrestleMania I think 4 and 5 were at Trump Tower and he has a long business relationship with the WWF.
Sure.
Never really thought that much about it at the time.
That is so weird though. Just like. Just imagine that, like a proper wrestling match, and like WWF, haven't they also had like even weirder shit, like RoboCop just like showed up in one match?
That was WCW. It was RoboCop and Sting, I think.
That's so fucking bizarre.
I know, but like that's wrestling.
RoboCop and who's gonna match RoboCop? Oh, Sting, it's like an actual wrestler. Like, okay.
RoboCop pulls him out of a cage, I think.
I mean, they've had like Hugh Jackman on, they've had Snoop Dogg on, usually to promote like movies. They've had the Muppets on a few times.
Nice.
Like it's a lot of it is related. So like Sheamus, the like Irish wrestler who has like bright red dyed hair and like pale white skin. Like he goes up to Beaker and he's like, "Whoa, I haven't seen you since the family reunion."
That's so out there.
I mean, the Muppets they're like the Looney Tunes characters. They're notorious for being able to play like a lot of different roles.
And not only that, but like. Even on actual Sesame Street, like just celebrities just like are magnetized to like the Muppets. Sure. They get everybody.
I don't remember how many times professional wrestlers have been on Sesame Street. I wouldn't be surprised if they were.
Yeah, I don't know. I can't think of any, but I don't know that much Sesame Street. Like I watched it when I was a kid. You know.
I'll have to follow up.
I mean, I know Jack. Like the people I could think of like as an adult that I'm aware of were on Sesame Street were like Jack Black and like Peter Dinklage.
I mean, they've done a Seventh Seal reference like on Sesame Street.
They did a whole sketch for Game of Thrones. That threw me right the fuck off. And they did a Stranger Things sketch as well, where Hopper was a rabbit Muppet. I was like, hey, and 11 was like the number 11. I'm like, this is too good.
I miss Sesame Street. I miss being young enough to derive meaning in my life from Sesame Street.
Well, no, but that's the thing though. Like. I didn't really appreciate it at the time because, you know, like, there are shows that, like, your parents can watch with you, but, like, you can just get full entertainment from Sesame Street as an adult. Like, like the Game of Thrones sketch had jokes that, like, are not spoilers, but if you know the show, you're like, whoa, that was surprisingly... I can't believe they went ahead with that, you know, like... It's kind of amazing. Like there was, well I'm not gonna say because everything in Game of Thrones is spoilers, so never mind. But I was just like, whoa! Like, and again, Stranger Things, the Demogorgon was replaced with Cookie Monster, who was like, oh, I forgot what it was, but like instead of Stranger Things, it was sharing things, and Cookie Monster was a monster because he wouldn't share cookies. It's like stuff like that. It's like
they also like two of the WWE guys, they started doing like takeoffs of like 80s and Netflix shows. Like these two guys who were just absolute nobodies. They used to be like a part of like a male model tag team called the Fashion Police, and they would like wear these like really skimpy looking like police outfits, and they would just like insult the other wrestlers like wear. But then they started doing these like takeoffs of 80s shows. Like they did like the X-Files for a while. And like one of the guys walks into the room and he's like I took the evidence down to the boys in the lab, but then I realized there was no lab and there are no boys.
Nice.
Like, what am I watching?
That's fantastic.
Like, this isn't a wrestling show.
That reminds me. Did you see that link I sent you on Facebook today of like it was like a Twitter post of like why wrestling is like the greatest entertainment form ever?
Which one is that? I didn't.
It was just a picture of like a guy with like aluminum foil on his head. Like this was not like WWF. It was like some like more local wrestling thing, like at your town, that kind of thing. But some guy was giving his backstory, and he's like, like I was abandoned by my parents as a kid, and like I was like raised in the woods by it was something like a bear maybe, except then I was abandoned by the bear and raised by a pro wrestler. I was like, that's so good.
Yes, actually, I have seen this before, like quite some time ago.
That's fantastic.
So like some of the indies, they use some pretty exotic gimmicks. I've shown you the one where the wrestler is the Invisible Man. I've shown you what is it the telekinetic wrestler. It kind of like makes fun of the fact that like a lot of the wrestling moves like guys are doing it to themselves.
Yeah, that is fantastic.
But like it's funny because like he does a telekinetic choke slam, but he does like the other theatrics of the choke slam. So like when you're like really giving somebody a choke slam, like so like fun fact, the choke slam supposedly was invented by Abraham Lincoln. Like he was a renowned amateur wrestler, and his finishing move like was apparently like an actual choke slam. Like he would grapple you by your neck and throw you to the ground.
That's crazy.
It was didn't he have weak bones for that?
I don't know. I mean, obviously he never like won any medals or like participated in the Olympics or something. Like I honestly don't know. Well, not that the modern Olympics existed in the 18 like.
Yeah,
30s
I was gonna say there were no Olympics.
I don't know. Like this is another apocryphal story. I just know that it's told about Abraham Lincoln. Like I would believe that he never pursued it as a career option or like collegiate at the collegiate level. Yeah. But he was a well-known wrestler.
Huh. Wait, you were talking about the telekinesis with the chokeslam?
Yeah, so like when the Undertaker does a chokeslam, as part of the theatrics, he like drapes the guy's other arm so that like the guy can jump up, because otherwise his like arms will get trapped under him when he's trying to jump up to the chokeslam. Yeah. So like, because like the guy is doing all the work, all the lift for a chokeslam, the other guy taking the move. Mm-hmm. So like the Undertaker is just like charismatic enough that you don't really pay attention to the fact there's no reason for him to like drape the other guy's arm over his shoulder so that he can jump.
Yeah.
But like the guy who does it telekinetically also does like a wave of his arm first, so the guy's arm drapes up like it's over his shoulder even though he's not touching him, and then does the choke slam. It's like great. He literally does the Undertaker's, and the guy's like really tiny. He looks like he's like 120 pounds.
I guess he's got a big brain. It's just goofy.
So, but like the fact that it's that consistent with the Undertaker's choke slam, like the theatrics of it, is like really funny to me.
Well, speaking of the Undertaker, I also remember seeing some clip. Like I don't remember what the context was at all online, but like someone had stolen like the urn that was the source of his power, so you just see the Undertaker going like, oh, like he was like hit by kryptonite, and it was just funny to me because like I knew even less about wrestling than I did now, and like this was at a time in my life where I was like, oh, wrestling's bullshit because it's fake, when like everyone and his mother knows it's fake. It's more just like about the performance. But then I see Undertaker getting weakened by the source of his power getting taken away like in a comic book, and I'm like, wait, well, okay, this is. So I guess I understand now.
So in CM Punk's last WrestleMania match, he actually wrestled the Undertaker, and like right before that happened, Paul Bearer, the Undertaker's manager,
best
actually
name ever,
died.
by the way.
Yeah, it's great. Well, his real name is like Percy Pringle or something. It's very unexciting.
Sure. Paul Bearer is such a good name.
I know, it's a great wrestling name. It's a great wrestling name, but he passed away, and so like the Undertaker brought out an urn and like paid homage to it, and it was supposed to be like Paul Bearer's ashes.
Yeah.
So like CM Punk comes out and he steals the fucking urn, and he's the heel in this match. So he like steals the urn and he's just like starts showering the ashes all over his body and like rubbing them on himself. And like people are still fucking cheering for him because they love CM Punk so much. And it's like,
wow,
what does he have to do to get booed? He's like literally amazing. Rubbing a dead guy's ashes on his body, and you're still cheering for him in the match.
I gotta say, but before you told
you?
I gotta say, before you told me this just now, I was going to say CM Punk, like he gets like lots of passes from me from that collab video he did with like Nerdist, I think.
Oh, is this
with,
the Grammar Slam?
The Grammar Slam. Mm-hmm. That was just funny, just Grammar Slam. Like, you like maybe I am a piece of shit. Maybe I am a figurative piece of shit. But at least I know the difference between literal and figurative. And it just cracks me up. Like this is what gets him really mad.
Yeah, exactly. But like, you probably wouldn't give him enough of a free pass to allow him to like sprinkle.
I said before you told me this just now. Yeah, yeah, that's a little beyond the pale.
A little, just a little. I remember like
I'm starting not to like him now.
Like his sons had to induct Paul Bearer into the Hall of Fame like the next week after that segment aired, and that was like incredibly awkward. It's like, yes, we just pantomimed sprinkling your father's ashes onto, like taking a bath in your dad's ashes.
Yeah, that is fucked up.
Please let's pay homage to his memory in with respect.
Yeah, that's really bad taste.
Yes, well that's wrestling.
Yeah,
the average episode of Raw is basically like a 3-hour The Aristocrats joke.
Wow.
So yeah, that's my take on the Saudi Arabia show. I mean, I guess we'll see how things continue. Like, you never know. Like, maybe so. Like, I had heard that they accidentally showed one of the women wrestlers on a promo in between matches, and all the guys in the screen like cheered. But like the some of the like the elites in the stands got so mad that the Ministry of Sports actually had to issue an apology and claim that they were committed to banning women's wrestling in Saudi
Apology
Arabia.
to whom? The people who were cheering?
The like, yeah. So like so like someone had recorded the crowd like when it happened, and it sounded like a Married with Children episode. They were all just like rooting like they had never seen a woman in their lives.
Yeah. Oh God.
Yeah. So like it was interesting. Like we'll see in the long run what the implications are for this going forward. If it's just a bunch of house shows, then it probably doesn't really matter. Although you know, and like it's good for like the bottom line of the WWF. Not that they deserve to be like to get all this money, because they're an extremely exploitative company, and this is like a reminder of the fact that that's true. But you know, you still watch it for the wrestlers because they're the stars.
Yeah.
You know, and like if they don't do it here, where else are they going to go? There's only one game in town.
Yep.
At least in the U.S. Okay, so I think that'll be it. I think that'll be our May 4th show for this week. Please remember to subscribe. May 3rd show for this week. Well, it's probably May 4th by now if you're watching it for a really long time. I'm sure I could talk about wrestling for 24 hours if you like.
We're running low on WW fuel.
Nice. Okay, so that's our May 3rd show for this week. Please remember to subscribe to the Corrective Consciousness YouTube and Soundcloud pages. While there, please give us thumbs up, likes, and 5-star ratings on iTunes. We prefer all manner of hosannas. It helps us promote and spread awareness of the show, and any bit of encouragement helps keep the show going. You can also catch us on Tuesday for our sister podcast, Corrective Consciousness, the podcast about our lives and pop culture. Probably not about wrestling this week, but you never know. Finally, you can friend the Commandant as Vice the Bold on Steam, PSN, Xbox Live, Twitter, Battle.net, and any number of other
whatever the hell
gaming
else
networks
he says.
where he's just got more important things to do than hang out with us, like here on Reactive Consciousness.
Oh. And you can follow me on my YouTube channel, Lotus Prince. You can hit me up on Twitter at Lotus Prince. And finally, if you are interested in seeing my videos early, getting in on exclusive live streams, or even selecting upcoming games for me to Let's Play, then perhaps consider swinging by my Patreon account, which can be found at patreon.com/LotusPrince.
And you can find me on Discord and Skype and Steam.
Perfect.
As Dracologist, probably.
Yes.
I hope.
Probably.
And you can find me as OldManStompy on Twitter, YouTube, and most major social gaming media networks, except for Steam. And you can also find me on the WWE Network, you know, screaming at my television and hoping things will change.
Old man yells at TV.
Yes, old man yells at yells at older wrestling commissioner. All right, thanks for listening, everybody, and we'll see you on Tuesday.
Until next time, everyone.
Good evening.
Cheers. Okay, so I'll sync us up. So, ready, set,
One, two, three.
They all sounded fine. Vice, if you're listening to this, go away.
Jealous yet?
Oh man!
Why? I'm glad that you laughed,
Like,
because otherwise
go away, like,
it's like
from his own computer.